from DRC, and the Honorable Zacharopoulos. Was that an S? We can discuss this. People butcher my last name all the time, so we're going to bond over this and we'll say it properly when I hear it from you, Minister. And she is the Minister for State Development in France. Please, let's welcome our panel to the stage. I would like to apologize for the technical glitch we had in the beginning of the session, but I think from now on things will go according to plan. And we will have a couple of conversations. Thank you, Ms. All right. To get us started on this conversation of scaling forest carbon markets and how to create value out of nature economies will be Minister Samuel Jinapor showing us some of the work that has been done, sharing with us some of the work that has been done with FCLP in Africa and forests and carbon markets. Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, esteemed delegates and fellow advocates for our planet's well-being, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I bring you warm greetings from my co-chair of the Forest and Climate Leadership Partnership, Secretary John Kerry, the United States Presidential Envoy on Climate, who is here to join us. And today, we stand at a critical stage in our shared history. The world is grappling with a climate emergency, as we all know, marked by the intensification of extreme weather events that defy predictability. Persistent deforestation threatens irreversible damage to forests and biodiversity hotspots. It is with a sense of urgency that the Africa Climate Summit has brought us together to address this among other pressing challenges. To begin, ladies and gentlemen, the role of preserving, restoring, and sustainably managing our forests has become paramount in our global mission to mitigate the far-reaching consequences of climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, for example, has in its report recounted the important role of forests and nature to achieving a 1.5-degree world. They actually contribute a third of the solution, as you may be aware. The gravity of this situation has been underscored by the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration, GLD, to halt and reverse forest loss by 2030, which emerged out of COP26 in Glasgow and signed by over 140 countries. This declaration reaffirms our collective commitment to halt and reverse the loss of forests and the degradation of our lands by 2030, and stands as a commitment intertwined with our pursuit of sustainable development objectives, culminating in the historic establishment of the Forest and Climate Leadership Partnership, FCLP, as a functional vehicle to achieve the GLD targets. It is important to acknowledge that the potential of carbon markets, both voluntary and compliance for forests, has long been underestimated and hugely critiqued for methodical inconsistencies in recent times. However, let us consider the REDD+ intervention, a brainchild of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. This initiative has translated into concrete gains, as seen in my own country, Ghana's receipt of $4.8 million United States dollars from the Carbon Fund for its first round of $50 million United States dollars, and Brazil's impressive $96.5 million United States dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, these figures underscore the tangible progress made by nations committed to combating deforestation and the impact these funds can make to increase efforts to continually reduce forest loss. As the era of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement blooms into action, its provisions even empower nations to leverage carbon markets to support their NDC achievement at a high level with the right frameworks as Ghana has pioneered to develop. The carbon market, once underestimated, now commands our attention as a vital tool in our climate arsenal with the right partnerships and collaborations. During discussions held in Bonn and Accra this year by the FCLP on Action Area 5, strengthening and scaling high-integrity forest actions, the members and partners of the FCLP illuminated obstacles that hinder financing for forest carbon credits, diverse and low pricing structures, standard-specific changing requirements for safeguards and MRVs, negative perceptions surrounding these credits, a considerable lack of appreciation of the supply side efforts by the demand side, and the slow rate of signing of transactions were identified as significant challenges to this market. The FCLP is outlining a strategic roadmap, placing emphasis on defining high-integrity forest carbon credit supply and demand and fostering capacity building within its Action Area 5. Ladies and gentlemen, subsequently, a working group co-led jointly by Ghana, Gabon, Guyana, and the United Kingdom has recently been formed to address these issues. With the commitment of numerous nations, this group is poised to unveil a roadmap and strategy for fortifying and expanding forest carbon credits by COP28 and COP30. This roadmap will be actionable and encompass far-reaching actions, including a strategic communications campaign to highlight the profound role of forests in global climate regulation, midterm actions to bolster high-integrity forest carbon finance, which includes a holistic readiness to resource-based payment capacity building support across different standards and requirements, and the announcement of forest carbon resource finance transactions spurred by FCLP member support and engagements by COP28. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, I'm elated and privileged to announce the launch of the FCLP Working Group on strengthening the supply and demand of high-integrity forest carbon credits. We are resolved to collaborate with strategic partners, both public and private, to achieve success in this working group, as partnership will be instrumental in realizing the transformative actions we envisage for our roadmap. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, the FCLP extends its heartfelt gratitude to all those who stand united in this noble cause and calls on all relevant stakeholders in the space to join this action. Together, we can usher in a new era of sustainable forest management and climate resilience for global climate action with the right price for actions to reduce forest loss and improve local community livelihoods. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. I think someone finally saw my plight and turned on the AC because it was really hot over here. Given your framing remarks on FCLP, I would like to welcome Ms. Stephanie Mbombo, the Special Presidential Envoy for the New Climate Economy in DRC, who is to highlight the importance of international collaboration and commitment to working with FCLP members. Madam.
Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour. Jambo. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. And thank you for the Kenyan government to invite us and all the welcome we had from Kenyan people and also from my fellow from FCLP speaker. Thank you very much. So I will leave the diplomatic speech from my Prime Minister, who is coming to represent the President here. And then I will be more pragmatic with you here. Here we are again. Why? Because we failed. It's simple. For more than 20 years, we had many commitments on funds, financing, many announcements without concrete delivery. My country have been following you for 20 years without any substantial outcome, despite its very important role that is playing on the forest, and the important role my country is playing to have this equilibrium in the world, and to help you countries from the north who are polluting for 97% of the world breathing. So here we are again. We have 62% of the Congo Basin. But we're not going to stop there, because the world is about processing, and we still hope that something going to come out of this. But how this could come out if we don't go to the concrete things? We are no more impressed by announcement. The only announcement I could be impressed here is if I have this fund in my bank account back home, then I can come here with a big smile and listen about the announcement. But congratulations for the announcement as well. The president of DRC make a big state. I think it's the most green president that we have in Africa and in the world for the moment. We have been conserving for 10,000 years of our peatland. Our peatland, under the peatland, we have the most tremendous reserve of oil, very rich. And recently, the president just decided to make the peatlands as a protective area in the process. So this is an opportunity cost of not exploiting our oil, and what we expect from that is very simple. Solution, nature is going to be damaged. The impact on environment, it's not from tomorrow, it's now, when I'm speaking here. And we have this opportunity cost to develop population. We say, no, we don't. We are giving you a balance. We can negotiate not to touch the oil, but we have the compensation of carbon credit. So we open the door. Beside that, our peatland is about 11,000 kilometers square. We have our protective area that represents 13% of our the hectare of our country, of our protective area is representing, of our forest, sorry, it's representing 223 kilometers square. So we have all the resources. The protected area, that means we never touch it anymore. We have the potential of 60% of forest sequestration in that protected area, and we have also tremendous biodiversity that you can find anywhere in the world, talking about 3 species of gorilla that we are having in our country. Yeah, the bonobo, the big gorilla, and the other one. So we are the solution, not only the solution, but we are the offer of the world. So how could you think about making this forest, this biodiversity, or the commitment of the country being accountable and develop our country? This is where we have this trade-off between protecting the forest and developing our countries. Our protected area have been protected by a long time by community, but they are now under threat. Why? Because of the ongoing growth of the population. Population needs wood, need home, need appropriate infrastructure to live, to raise their children. So you cannot just tell them, oh, look, the world needs to breathe, so we don't need you to touch the trees. So what can I give them in exchange? We have another situation also of security. The rebel group in the east of the country, it is secret for no one. We have been under war for more than 20 years, and one of our best neighbor country is fueling rebel group of M23 in our country. So these rebel groups are cutting the trees and dealing the biodiversity and all the ecosystem of the country, because the biodiversity gives the balance of the life in the forest and the community and the entire world. So we are under threat. This is why today we'll come off this offer from our president, saying this is where we are on the table, where we put on the table under FCLP structure. Also, any other, how can I say, institution would like to accompany us to make value of this forest and to develop the population. Besides the governance of the forest, we have all those tremendous new technology of Congolese youth people innovating in the mitigation of climate change. So we are doing a lobby. My president actually, in the merge of the UN Assembly, we will do a side event on fair carbon market, because the carbon market is the most unfair market never exists in the world. We are the country are giving the world the solution. We are making the equilibrium of the ecosystem. But so far, our carbon credits are being sold for $3 to $5, while in the northern country, in regulated markets, which is close to the African one, the carbon credits are being sold at $100 and more. So it's really unfair. We would like to have, for the voluntary market, we like to have a floor price, so we can discuss for the 3 big basins, starting by the Congo basin, to have this price of the voluntary market, meaning that if a company comes to discuss carbon market with us, carbon credit market, you don't want to go so down because of the respect of the role our forest is playing in the world now. And the second one, we want to have this open market to the regulated market. Because why? We are in the same boat. So the northern countries closing their markets because they want to innovate. And we have our trees beside, we're cutting the trees in the same boat. We're all going to sink. There's no solution for anyone. We need to be and to do it together. From now, not tomorrow. From really now. That's where we need to start doing it. So this is what we would like to have, this open market with the mitigation of our people innovating in recycling, in new energy, so we can connect the mitigation market with the northern mitigation market, so we can talk about how we can empower Congolese market and African market credit carbon who are innovating so well. They need to be empowered. We are very, I have only 4 minutes left, so I couldn't speak that much, but I'm very honored to be here and then open again for dialogue and discussion. We did our mission, my government specifically. We give you an offer, and then you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie Mbombo. Couldn't even echo the statements made. It is therefore my pleasure to welcome to the stage Honorable Chrysola Zakharopoulou. I did my best. The Minister for State Development in France.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais parler en français, s'il vous plaît. Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout d'abord, j'aimerais remercier les autorités de Kenya pour cette invitation et pour cet accueil chaleureux. J'étais sûre, c'est le même accueil chaleureux chaque fois que je viens sur le continent africain. Comme vous avez dit, nous sommes aujourd'hui autour d'un enjeu majeur, celui du financement de la biodiversité. Notre cap est clair, c'est celui de l'accord de KICC qui vise à mettre un terme et inverser la perte de biodiversité d'ici 2030. Avec tous les trésors de biodiversité et écosystèmes uniques qu'elle abrite, l'Afrique sera en première ligne à la fois en termes de défis, mais surtout des solutions. La France est engagée aux côtés de nos partenaires africains. Nous avons décidé de doubler nos financements pour la nature d'ici à 2025 pour atteindre 1 milliard d'euros par an. Nous avons également contribué à une reconstitution historique du Fonds pour l'environnement mondial et à la création à son sein d'un fonds dédié au cadre mondial pour la biodiversité, tellement demandé de beaucoup de partenaires africains. Permettez-moi de dire que la rapidité avec laquelle nous avons lancé ce fonds, décidé à la COP 15, témoigne tout d'abord de notre capacité collective à répondre à l'urgence, et j'aimerais remercier et souligner aussi que le rôle des 27 États membres de l'Union européenne était important. Et alors, ils ont mis cet dynamisme qui, à des moments comme ça, il était très utile. Mais les annonces financières ponctuelles ne seront jamais à l'auteur de l'immense défi qui nous fait face. La transition écologique et la protection de la nature demandent encore plus. Tout d'abord, il faut une transformation en profondeur des politiques publiques. Et ça, c'est le travail de chaque gouvernement. La deuxième chose, des investissements significatifs. Et on est tous d'accord. Mais les financements publics ne sont pas suffisants, ne seront jamais. Alors, il faut tous ensemble penser à des financements innovants. Il faut mobiliser le secteur privé, les philanthropes, les ONG, penser des autres acteurs financiers privés, les banques, trouver de nouvelles taxations. Il faut réfléchir alors sur les financements innovants. Et c'est à travers cette approche où chacun prend ses responsabilités et cette approche collective que nous pouvons réussir à provoquer, comme il dit le président Macron, un choc de financement. C'était l'objectif du sommet pour un nouveau pacte financier que nous avons accueilli à Paris en juin dernier, auquel nombre d'entre vous ont participé. Le pacte de Paris pour le peuple et la planète, adopté à cette occasion et soutenu déjà par plus de 30 pays partenaires, présente à la fin un principe clair. Et il faut le souligner. Aujourd'hui, aucun pays ne devrait pas avoir comment on dit, à choisir entre la lutte contre la pauvreté et la préservation de la planète. C'est la même bataille. Au cœur alors de ce pacte se trouve une logique partenariale pour les forêts, dont la préservation, oui, est essentielle pour notre agenda climatique et de biodiversité. Nous avons lancé avec plusieurs partenaires le partenariat pays pour les forêts, la nature et le climat. Et je voulais remercier John Kerry pour ce travail qu'on fait ensemble depuis Washington. Alors, ces partenariats pays pour les forêts, la nature et le climat permettront de catalyser, de coordonner le financement pour préserver les zones les plus riches en biodiversité. Ces partenariats doivent démontrer que la préservation de la biodiversité et la poursuite du développement économique ne sont pas des objectifs incompatibles. Mais au-delà de l'approche pays, nous souhaitons développer des formats de coopération régionaux. La nature ne connaît pas de frontières, les dynamiques transfrontalières sont très fortes et les États voisins partagent souvent les mêmes défis et alors il faut qu'ils travaillent ensemble. C'est dans cette perspective que la France a pris la facilitation du partenariat pour les forêts du bassin du Congo et doublé sa contribution à l'initiative pour les forêts d'Afrique centrale, le CAFI. Alors, je le disais, je pense qu'il faut que je finisse. C'est très bien. Les défis sont immenses. J'aimerais finir avec une approche que j'écoute les dernières périodes, que je ne partage pas du tout. Je n'aime pas les personnes qui veulent diviser le Nord et le Sud. Je ne crois pas au concept du Sud global. Je crois qu'il y a des pays champions, il y a des pays retardataires. Le Kenya est clairement un pays champion, qui a une agenda positive, qui va mettre l'Afrique, avec toutes les propositions, au centre des solutions. Voilà, je suis très content que ce sommet de Nairobi nous porte ensemble. Il faut continuer ensemble parce qu'on a beaucoup de défis et nous aurons besoin l'un de l'autre. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Minister. For those that do not speak French like me, I understand that the Minister was highlighting the continued commitment of France to the Global Expert Review on Debt, on Nature, Climate, that was announced with Kenya and Colombia, and they commit to working with a broader coalition of countries and financial institutions to increase the use of credit enhancement mechanisms as a sum up. Again, I think there is some sort of a failure of technical services for this particular panel. Please bear with us. I would like for us to thank this panel once again for their statements and call upon the private sector to come on stage. I am going to call all of them, again, using my task at hand to change the program a little bit, asking for Ambassador Luc Jacob to join us, the Climate and Environment Special Envoy of Belgium, Dr. Franny Lottier, Senior Partner and CEO of Southbridge Investments and the Chair of FSD Africa, Martin Berg, CEO Climate Asset Management, and to throw a spanner on things, I'll also ask Ademola Ajape to join this panel. Ademola? I know, throwing a spanner. Thank you, but thank you for humoring me. Because we are pressed for time, I was given this very difficult task. I would like to pose a question to this panel in response to a challenge that I feel was already put by Ms. Stephanie Mbombo and several ministers that have already spoken. How do we make market mechanisms work for Africa, for nature, and for biodiversity? And to get us started, and I hope with an announcement, will be Ambassador Luc Jacob of Belgium.
Bonjour, guten Abend, goedenavond. Yes, with only three official languages in Belgium, it's always a cruel choice which language to choose and to address such an eminent public, but I will do it in English. Also, of course, I do not represent the private sector. I represent the Belgian government, but having said this, being very much, as the Belgian government is very much interested indeed, in how we can lever the financial means in order to close the huge gap between ambition and needs on the one hand, and indeed what we can mobilize in terms of financial means. Now, not exactly representing the private sector, my angle of approach will be a little bit different, but will be in connection with what we have heard during the first panel. So there was indeed, we spoke about forest protection. Belgium is a long-standing supporter of forest protection, forest conservation. We have signed the Global Forest Finance Pledge during the COP26 in Glasgow, and that translates into various and substantial financial contributions, for example, to the Central African Forest Initiative, also to the Yangambi Biosphere Reserve. We also organize, we co-finance conferences on the topics that are being held in Africa. And I would like to stress indeed that point as well, which is sometimes a little bit remains under the headlights, and that is scientific research. I mean, we are engaged in a number of programs in which we work together with our African partner countries in order to build up capacity in terms of the scientific research that is so important in order to understand developments, in order to understand the problems, and also in order to devise the solutions. On FCLP, I will not go in much detail, but do know that it is, of course, on the radar of Belgium, of the Belgian government, and we see in it a very interesting vehicle indeed that is, as has been explained, really designed to mobilize all the stakeholders and to tap into a variety of financial sources, also innovative financing, and also, as we very eloquently heard, that it's also about carbon markets, and indeed, these are the topics that we have to discuss and study further, because the key to very, let's say, very important solutions can be found in them. I also wanted to say something about our more general approach to climate finance, which is also in connection with what has been discussed earlier, the interconnection, the interlinkages between climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation. Well, this interconnection is recognized by the Belgian government in its climate action in general, but specifically in Africa. And there indeed I would like to make an announcement very humbly indeed. In French we say le fait d'annonce. You announce something and then what do you do in practice? Well, I can say we have a good track record in abiding by our commitments and our engagements. In that sense, we have a series, for example, of bilateral programs on in the framework of climate action, but that are being carried out in a very integrated manner, taking into account the fact that climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation are intertwined. This series of programs, they are about 3 years. Well, we are now in the process of finalizing such bilateral programs together with multilateral partners. These are UN organizations active in the African countries, and we are currently working on with 5 African countries in order to finalize these programs that will contribute to climate adaptation with regard to smart agriculture, sustainable cities, and biodiversity. The integrated approach, and this is my concluding remark, is about our program, climate change program in the Sahel region that was announced in 2021, that is spanning 5 years till 2026. It is the first time that Belgium invests in a regional program with a specific focus on international climate action, and the aim is to improve living conditions of vulnerable populations in the Sahel, to restore in a sustainable way the natural ecosystems, and to better manage natural resources. A last announcement or an information, we signed last month an agreement with Mozambique, also specifically on climate change. And during Climate Week, some side events will be organized by and with Mozambique, in which also our developing agency is advising the Mozambican government in its energy transition. So thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. We welcome the announcement of work that will be done in the Sahel. And our next statement will come from Dr. Franny Lottier. Now the private sector starts on their investments in the continent.
Thank you very much, Madam Bogolo, moderator. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll start first by greeting you all in Swahili. Habari za mchana. Asante sana. That just means good afternoon for those of you who don't speak Swahili. The private sector has been mentioned a lot since this morning, but as you can see, we're very lightly represented amongst the speakers, but I hope not so amongst the audience. So hopefully we can take this conversation forward. So I'm going to be very practical in sharing with you what has been the progress since we met in Sharm el-Sheikh in terms of bringing innovative solutions to develop the kind of financing that is needed to deliver on the nature and climate objectives. So to start with, and I'm very happy to hear from Belgium the announcement that they will bring forth bilateral aid to the fore. We heard similar announcements from Minister Chris in terms of the role that France has played. The US and the UK have been supporting over a number of years now the FCLP along with other countries. So there are a lot of bilateral efforts ongoing to support nature finance and climate initiatives. The new player in terms of scale has been philanthropy. And I'm very happy to say that from the point of view of land restoration and deforestation, where Africa has put together its own objectives with the AFR 100 initiative, where 34 African countries have come together and said, we want to restore and reforest over 120 million hectares on the continent. And that means not only will Africa be continuing to play the role of the lungs of the earth that Stephanie reminded all of us about, but it will actually be improving the quality of those lungs through this effort. So in order to support Africa's commitment to do that, the total investment portfolio that you would need to address that 126 million hectares is about $10 billion. However, we thought if you give people such a huge number, you get sticker shock. So let's start with something small. So along with a commitment from the Bezos Earth Fund that announced their pledge in Sharm el-Sheikh at COP27 of $50 million of philanthropic capital towards this initiative, I'm happy to say that in addition to that, Ted Audacious has put $100 million towards this initiative, so a total of $150 million from philanthropy. And that now can be combined with bilateral aid in order to use those resources to tap into the vast market resources that are available. So where is the additional bilateral financing coming from? I'm happy to say that Germany made an announcement and has actually initiated the transfer of their funds into this pocket or bucket of 40 million euros that will go through FAO and then come into this initiative. So those now, we are going now into close to 200 million of bilateral and philanthropic capital. But the intention is for us to raise then the remaining through the market resources. And here I'm very happy to announce that 2 MDBs have come forward to say that they will lend their balance sheets in order to do this. One we can announce publicly here, which is the Arab Bank for Development in Africa, that you may have seen has recently been rated AAA and stable, and therefore with a AAA rating can access market resources at cheaper rates. And that means that you can then pass on those benefits to the communities and the SMEs who are the guardians of the land and the forests in Africa. And so those are really great opportunities for us to move forward. I want to also mention that in addition, because for the $2 billion you could do a lot, but we wanted to focus on a few priority landscapes. The Rift Valley, so our host country Kenya, will be one of the countries that we focus on to deliver on that objective. The Ruzizi Valley, which is DRC, Rwanda, and Burundi, and then the Cocoa Belt starting with Ghana. And I'm also happy to say that Ghana and DRC are 2 countries that the FCLP has selected to be the focus countries for which we could aggregate resources and help deliver and show that you could actually do something at scale. So Stephanie, the money is hopefully coming soon to your bank account. And then finally, because of the importance of not only land restoration and reforestation, but also stopping deforestation, we at Southbridge are the only African-owned asset manager to actually sign up to the Forest Sector Deforestation Action Initiative. And I'd like to use this opportunity to encourage other African investment banks and asset managers to do the same, because it's important for Africa to sign up, because we have the forests, as you've heard. If we don't preserve them and restore them, we will also lose the opportunity in the future. And then we are also signatories to the Mangrove Breakthrough, because we also own very rich mangrove forests along our coastal areas, and mangroves are very good for carbon sequestration. And then finally, once we've created all these assets, all the communities and SMEs will be growing, restoring land and growing trees and creating those carbon assets, we want them to also benefit from carbon trading, because so far, carbon trading is really mostly the big boys game, the big players with large plantations working with buyers outside of the continent to buy up the carbon. And we would like every farmer and every community to actually benefit from that. And we can, because A, we have digital platforms now. You can see when you buy your tea here in Kenya, you can pay with your phone, right? So you don't need cash anymore to pay in Africa. So it's a very digitized society already, and we believe that can allow us to reach the smallest player. But secondly, we've joined up with the African Carbon Markets Initiative, which is an African initiative to develop and push forward carbon credits and carbon investments in Africa. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll end here because we are short of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm a big fan of Dr. Franny, and I think everybody must know the story of Southbridge and how they're investing in the continent. She will be speaking in the next panel, so if you'd like to know more, do join the Domestic Mobilization panel and hear more about their work. I will then, tagging on what Franny presented on, ask Martin Berg to give us an update of what happened since the COP26 pledge on forest protection. Martin.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. So I'm Martin Berg. I'm the CEO of Climate Asset Management. For those that don't know us, we are an asset management firm entirely dedicated to natural capital. And we are a partnership, and we're founded by HSBC Global Asset Management on the one hand side, and Pollination, which is an investment and advisory firm. So with that, you probably already gathered that restoring nature and improving community self-worth, livelihood, and biodiversity is really what drives us in our investments. And what I wanted to do is two things, exactly, maybe also framing the question that we were asked slightly different, and not focus on what's not working, but I want to really focus what is actually already working. And I want to show how we are using carbon finance to funnel money here to various African countries. So the one update I wanted to give, rather than making an announcement, an update of actually money flowing, is our Restore Africa program, which we are co-developing with the Global Evergreen Alliance. It's a 150 million financing program in 6 African countries. So we're focusing on East Africa in Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. It's also part of the AFR 100, which now has been mentioned a few times, which has pledged to bring up to 100 million of hectares into restoration into 2030. So, and as I mentioned, we are really proud that we made this initial pledge at COP26. We came back to COP27. We're coming back here. I hope we come back to COP28. And what we really want to say is we are implementing. Money is flowing. We're working in 3 of the 6 countries already now. And we want to add the other 3 as soon as possible. So for us, it's really important to focus on action rather than implementation than on making new announcements. Maybe I can explain how we actually do that and how it works for our investors. And I do this really quickly. The nexus of climate and carbon is probably known to everyone. What we have designed is a strategy or fund that allows corporate buyers to pool their money and to invest this in projects. And I think what's really important is here that this is really an investment activity. So rather than talking about what is actually now the actual carbon price that you pay. It's like, how can we finance emission reductions from nature-based solutions? And by doing that, focusing on high-quality carbon credits. And high quality really means for us, on the one hand side, projects that of course achieve emission reduction, but on the other side also have multiple benefits at the local level, including more resilient landscapes, enduring employment, improvement livelihoods, and biodiversity enhancements. And I think that's something we should really focus on. A lot of the activities that are focused on nature when it comes to carbon emission projects have these benefits inherently embedded, and it's really important to recognize that, especially when thinking about profit sharing. But having said that, it is very important these projects only work if the local communities also understand what is, so to speak, in for them, and that there is a benefit sharing. Maybe in the interest of time, I'll shorten it here, but I think what we really wanted to show is really that these financing opportunities can be really rare win-win opportunities, and I think we should really embrace them as such. And in our view, they allow to achieve three things. These projects really improve the livelihood and food security of smallholders farmers and their communities across Southern and Eastern Africa. We can help countries and governments to deliver on their climate pledges, including the NDCs, because all the activities we are doing here now contributing to the NDCs of the countries, and at the same time we can generate carbon credits so that organizations that want to pledge that they become net zero can actually use them. So in our view, we actually need a lot more of these approaches to create a climate resilient world for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I understand, Dr. Frane, you have one last thing to speak to.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I wanted to mention that the one important aspect, because these are long-term, I think there's an echo. These are long-term investments that take 20, 30 years. So in order to properly do that, we have sponsored the creation of a foundation called the Vumbuzi Impact Africa Foundation that the World Resources Institute has agreed to incubate and support, and it's headquartered in Kigali, Rwanda, to create this long-term capacity for Africa to develop its forests, land restoration, and create this opportunity for the carbon participation of the local community. So I should remember, especially in front of Madame Deputy Chairperson who hails from Rwanda.
Thank you very much, Dr. Frane. Now I get to sit down for 5 minutes and ask a few questions to dear friend Ademola Ajagbe, who is the Regional Director of the Nature Conservancy. We have had a lot of conversations since Paris, well, since before then, but more so in Paris, about the balancing act of using our budgets to finance adaptation and resilience versus protection of nature and versus payment